With NASCAR rolling out its new race for the chase, the question becomes who now becomes the favorite heading into next year. Now, although I think it kind of remains the same top three in Larson, Hamlin, and then you can kind of rotate that Christopher Bell and William Byron into that third spot, the rest of the field remains unknown. Or does it? We crunched some numbers, did a little math, got together, and did a little power ranking on how these drivers will favor into the new series. Now, keep in mind, you have to also understand with the change that this data could be altered a little bit because this is compiling data for the last 5 years. They've raced differently. They've had to be aggressive in certain areas that maybe they didn't have to. So that's going to play a factor. But ultimately, it's all apples to apples. Let's see who this new thing favors, who it doesn't, and let's talk about it. Roll it. All right, so let's break it down first. We're going to start with the graphic here in Kyle Larson so you guys can get an idea, a great picture of how we're doing this scorecard, okay? So what we decided to do is break it up, essentially how the playoffs are going to be ran. You're going to have your intermediate tracks, which are basically your 1.5 to 2 mile ovals, right? And how we graded that was basically average finish in these tracks, average top 5, laps led, avoidance of crashes, all of these things, basically not being DNF'd, right, in those tracks. Then you go to short flat. Again, same thing, same measurables. Where do they finish? Consistency, all those things. Road roval, drafting courses like Talladega, and then just overall consistency throughout this. Now, mind you, this is going to be simply just based off of the last 10 tracks. That's kind of how we did it, knowing where they're going to be racing, right? Taking the data from those particular courses because that's where the chase is. We assume Kyle Larson will make the chase, so we don't need to really get into that. Now, what will play a factor, obviously, is where do they stand heading into the chase? If they're in last place, will these numbers be more beneficial to them? Doesn't really matter, but how they perform in the chase is going to be important. Now, with that in mind, maybe you try to keep Larson as low down in the total poll as possible because you know of his excellence in these types of races and the consistency that he is known to have in the back stretch. We showed a graphic on the show 2 days ago showing that if we were doing the chase for the last 10 years, who would be your champion? And Kyle just picked up one more championship, which is not from last year, but the year prior when I believe Joey Logano took home the trophy. So it's favored him obviously for quite some time, but now even more so back again. I think that it's going to favor him heavily headed into this season. Now, with that in mind, I wanted to look at the rest of the field where they rank. You can see there he has a score of 94. I think it's always fun and easier to see things when there is a score associated to it. So he gave Chase, which is the number one driver that has the best overall score, kind of like an NFL player in Madden, right? An overall of 94. Let's take a look at how he compares to the rest of the field. Don't mind the faces, okay? AI doesn't quite have these boys figured out. Kyle Larson looked pretty damn good, though. I got to be honest with you. So you got Kyle sitting there at 94. Christopher Bell sitting at 91. This was somebody that was obviously off to a hot start, winning 3 races early on in the season. Kind of got quiet and cold in the middle of it, and then was consistent throughout the playoffs. He was right there kind of, just consistently, never got over the hump, getting him a win to put him in a place to win the championship. But he is a very young, up-and-coming driver who is exciting to watch, love his personality. Obviously, we know that drafting courses are not his favorite, although he did win one last year and at Atlanta. So I love him at number 2. I think that, honestly, probably Denny should get the edge here, but this is compiling data. So we can't argue with the numbers. Then, of course, William Byron and Chase Elliott. I really think this is going to favor Chase Elliott more than this scorecard is giving him credit for. That is somebody that him and William are both 2 guys that I believe are one of the best at avoiding crashes, that can stay in races consistently. And they're not typically the most aggressive ones at the end of the race, which probably why some of that data may be skewed a little bit lower. But their consistency, I think, will prevail them. And I think we might be talking about William Byron and Chase Elliott a lot heading into the season. Chase Elliott won in particular, obviously a huge fan favorite. Another one of my favorites that I love to watch is Tyler Reddick. Love the way that he races. I think he reminds me, him and Carson Hocevar give me a young Kyle Busch-esque vibe where they're never really out of it. They got a little bit of chaos. Tyler Reddick's a little more sharpened, a little more, I would say, precise with his skill more than Carson. Carson's still a bit chaotic and has some things he needs to work on, of course. But Tyler Reddick is going to be somebody that I think bolts tremendously with this new race for the chase. And then, like I said on the other show the other day, Mr. Buescher is somebody that has been missing just a spot or 2 out of the playoffs because of your winning in, knocking this guy out. Mark it, book it. If there is a odd number out there that says, hey, can I just put money on Mr. Buescher making the playoffs or making the chase or whatever you want to call it, everything, lay it down. First take of the season, okay? I know it's early. But Mr. Busher has been ramping up for this. This is built for him, and I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do because we've never been able to see him in true playoff form, right? He's always kind of having to fight for his life and race extra, ultra aggressive that back half of the season to get into these races because of those one and done guys taking spots from someone like Mr. Busher. I know he lacks consistency elsewhere, but I think that if he were to make the chase, according to this chart, it's gonna favor him tremendously. I got my guys mixed up. Bowman, not Byron, is the other guy like Chase Elliott who does a great job of avoiding crashes and typically staying alive. Obviously, they still get into wrecks, but he comes in at the bottom. He is somebody who's been just squeaking in every year, right? Kind of that last little spot there. So this isn't any surprising. Some names that we're missing here. I did another chart, right? Kind of the fan favorites. Ryan Blaney, one of my favorites. My guys, I love. Obviously, Chase is always fun to watch, but Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch is an OG, but he's going on his way. And Carson Hocevar is a guy that I'm obsessed with. I've loved watching that kid race. And then Bubba Wallace, he's fun to watch. I mean, I love them all. There's a few that I hate, and I have him on here too. Joey Logano, I can't stand. I know the comment section loved a few Joey Loganos. We're not going to be friends, all right? But I appreciate you having bad taste in drivers. That's cool. And Joey Logano is one that gets a lot of flack for his championships because in one of the championships he averaged 17th and that he would have never had success if it was always the race for the chase. And this scorecard kind of supports that, right? Over the last 5 years, he's probably just squeaking in to the playoffs. Now it's 16 drivers, right, that get in, and these three guys probably still get in. Now, Bubba, in my eyes, is his last 2 years have been incredible. So if we're taking a 5-year average, there was a 3-year span, incredible in comparison to what he was doing. This number might be a little bit skewed in the wrong direction. I think Bubba is up and coming and is probably a better scorer than what that shows. He was extremely consistent last year, thought he raced very well, dominated a lot of different tracks, has elevated his game on multiple tracks that he didn't have a couple years ago. So he is somebody that I like. Ryan Blaney, look, the guy can race. If he makes the chase, you got to watch out. He is a scientist, a wizard when it comes to those playoff tracks. He had a lot of just trouble last year, whether it was car failure, just massive wrecks. So again, all those things play a factor into it. I think Ryan Blaney will still be fine and make the chase, but is he going to be able to hang on to those Kyle Larsons, to those Denny Hamlins? Again, there's tracks that suit him, and I think that he really favored or really benefited from that win and get in mentality, or that not mentality, but that win and get in setup, because just the way the playoffs kind of ran, there was always a track in each round that extremely benefited him. There were also other tracks that he didn't bode well on, but it didn't matter. As long as he won one of them, he was good to go. So he's going to have to make some adjustments. Something that we have to still take into consideration as well as the car change. Moving the horsepower from 600 to 750 horsepower can also skew these numbers tremendously as well too. So we don't know how that's going to play a factor. We will eventually. Again, I think that it'll favor some of these older guys early on, which may give them an early advantage. By the end of the season, I think that'll be a pretty even playing field. But it may cause, it's still, even if they got a good handle on it, I think it still may cause chaos towards the back half of the season, which, again, Kyle Busch said it in a recent interview that wrecking seems to be more of a liability, which could cause more of a heartache than before. When you would wreck before, you still felt like, well, I've got a chance. All I've got to do is win. You wreck a couple now, your whole season could be kaput pretty quickly. So had a fun doing this. Let me know your thoughts on it. Again, take a look at this scorecard. This is kind of probably your early favorites or early odds to win the chase if we were to take a look at it. It'll be something to monitor as the season goes, and maybe we can come back and look at this and see how the race for the chase top 16 or even the top 8 compares to this. How spot on was our chart into what actually happened. Again, the new car could play a factor. One thing I will say about this, and obviously chaos is still going to ensue, but then moving the Daytona, or I still call it the Pepsi 400, to the back half of the season, the last race of the year, what I did enjoy about that was because literally anybody could win it. Now, although that person that won it may have not belonged in the playoffs, it caused for a phenomenal race. I feel like we might lose that a little bit, but I still think there's going to be guys racing for that last 15th, 16th spot, and no better way to end it than on a track like Daytona where you can slingshot yourself up to the top and get a win with, which is 55 points. So depending on how close it is, we could still have chaos. But I also think that it could alleviate what it was intended to be, which was an exciting opportunity to get yourself in the playoffs. So keep an eye on that. That might be something they change in the years to come, because that race now may not be as exciting as it once was, and maybe they move it back to July. I liked it around the July 4th weekend. Maybe you guys didn't. Let me know in the comment section below. Continue to subscribe. We just surpassed 100 subscribers, which is incredible. Next stop is 500, then 1,000. So keep hammering it. Let me know how you're feeling down below, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace and love, baby.